Hello once again, and welcome to another edition of the SaskAgToday.com Roundtable. I'm joined by 620 CKRM Regina Agri-News Director Ryan Young down at Canadian Western Agribition in Regina, as well as the Chief Agricultural Editor for SaskAgToday.com, Kevin Hursh, who is coming to us from an undisclosed location today. With an awfully red face, I may add. I'm Doug Falconer, GX94 Agriculture Director in Yorkton. And of course, the big news this week has been Agribition all week long. Ryan, you've been there for all 5 days thus far.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know where we want to begin or where we want to go from here, but I guess I can start with kind of the crowds and the traffic here overall here at Agribition. I would say it's been pretty good. We're currently located at the Affinity Plex where the trade show area is, and there's been a lot of decent foot traffic here. And I'm kind of looking around as we speak, and there's a lot more people kind of walking around, checking things out here. We're just finishing lunch here as we're recording, so. It's been pretty good over here, but a lot of the bigger crowds, guys, have been in the Bungie International Trade Center, where the livestock are, the GMC Chevrolet Arena, where the sales have been, the John Deere Sale Arena as well, the Stockman's Arena, and even at the Brant Center for the Maple Leaf Finals Rodeo. That's been drawing a lot of really good crowds here throughout the week. And I would say that has a lot to do with the weather here in Regina. It's been a lot warmer here compared to last year, where last year it was pretty much minus 30 in a blizzard. So the weather has been really good. A few flurries here and there. Temperatures have been pretty good. And as well as the organizers, they spread out the free admission throughout the week. Monday was gate admission for free. Wednesday was free admission into the Maple Leaf Finals Rodeo. So that's been really helping attendance numbers. And a lot of optimism among livestock producers here when it comes to the cattle market. I know we're going to touch on that in a second, but when I've talked to a few cattle guys here about where the market is trending lately, they said that never really bothered them. The prices are still as high as they are compared to previous years. And they know that at some point there's got to be a correction somewhere. So they're not too worried overall. But I know we're going to talk a little bit more about, other specific things about Agribition, but generally speaking, throughout the week, it's been really good.
Kevin, I know you're not in Regina, but once again, it sounds like the weather has cooperated and that's helped out the numbers in Regina.
Yeah, it's really a wild card, and crowds can still be good with some inclement weather, but if you get snowstorms and really cold weather, it's got to detract from crowds. And good to hear that the numbers have been good and another successful Agribition event.
And Ryan, of course, we have seen a few announcements made in Regina at Agribition. Of course, the burning of the brands saw the federal agriculture minister and Saskatchewan agriculture minister attend, and you had a chance to take part in those scrums there.
Yeah, absolutely. The burning of the brand, I'll start with that first. Lieutenant Governor Bernadette McIntyre had the honors of burning the brand, and I would say she did a really good job in handling the brand. It was nice and clear in the woods, so you could see it clearly. She got a few coaching hints, she said, on how to use the brand. It was her first time using it. So, yeah, it was kind of funny to hear that, and she absolutely enjoyed it. She's a famous volunteer here in Regina. She's been at every single Agribition since it started. She's been in various roles here volunteering, whether as a shuttle driver or helping out in the barns. So it was really nice to see her. As far as the ag ministers being here, obviously the dominant topic was about the tariffs and the trade situation in China, India, and the United States. Kind of touching on China. Heath McDonald, the federal ag minister, said that things are moving in the right direction. He kind of touched on his most recent trip to China, where the Chinese were actually having a lot of open discussion about trade, a lot more than what they would usually have. They're kind of more tight-lipped when it comes to those sorts of things. So that's kind of a positive sign that things are moving in the right direction, and rightfully so. On India, we know that Canada and India are restarting their trade talks again. That's kind of been an ongoing thing, from what I understand, since 2010. But according to McDonald, things are kind of moving in the right direction there as well. He's had some conversations with the High Commissioner, so we'll see where that goes. And then, of course, with the United States, it's kind of on again, off again. It's kind of touch and go. So we'll see where that goes as well. And when it comes to Nutrien, that also kind of came up. They're kind of deciding whether or not they want to move a project down to the States or in Canada here. They were kind of testing the waters a little bit from what I heard and just kind of said that they're thinking about going to the United States. So when McDonald was asked about that, he put out some pretty strong words. He said that he felt Nutrien is going to regret that decision, even though, from what I hear, a formal decision hasn't been made yet. So kind of interesting stuff.
All right. And then, of course, on Tuesday morning was the breakfast in the barns, and the guest speaker was Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe, and the NDP leader Carla Beck was also in attendance for that. I had a chance to listen in on the scrum for that, Kevin. And of course, all the major issues came up. Of course, Scott Moe recently returning from Washington, D.C. on a trade mission, and all of the other things that go with agriculture, whether it be cattle or the tariffs and that sort of thing. Have you heard anything new, Kevin, on where things are going with tariffs and cattle prices and that sort of thing?
It seems to be moving slowly, but perhaps in the right direction with discussions with China and with India, and perhaps that's the most we can hope for. I know there is an element out there that believes that canola farmers, and I don't know why pea farmers would not be in the same boat, should receive compensation for the Chinese tariffs. And there's an argument to be made in that regard. Lumber and the auto industry are receiving some substantive support, and really in the canola industry, all that's ever been announced was an increase in the cash advance available, and you can't borrow your way out of an income problem. But when you look at it, canola prices have remained amazingly strong. In the last Ag Canada principal crop outlook, their projection for the crop year is up over their October projection, very close to the price for last year. And we look at your cropping options for 2026. In my estimation, canola is one of the top performers given what we know now about the market. So I know there's people complaining that canola is not being treated as well as other commodities, that Western and agriculture are being ignored. But I think that has to be tempered with the fact that canola still is relatively strong, probably because we have such a strong crushing industry here, and perhaps about 60% of the canola is processed domestically. So I hope, and I think everyone hopes, that the tariff situation with China can be resolved sooner rather than later. I think the federal agriculture minister indicated optimism that the 2026 crop will not be subject to tariffs, but that's still a long range and hope rather than an announcement. But it's great to know they're continuing to work at it.
And Kevin, you also took a look at cattle prices in the U.S. and how the slight drop there is starting to filter through to Canada.
Yeah, a lot of news out of the U.S. that's really started with U.S. President Trump talking about beef prices for American consumers being too high, and then subsequently the Argentinian amount of beef that could be brought in tariff-free was increased. Brazilian tariffs on beef were dropped. And then there was also some politicians pointing at packing plants, saying packers were making excess profits, and that was the reason for high beef prices, when in fact all the analysis by trusted observers say that the packing industry is really struggling and losing money on every animal they process. The packing industry is chasing an ever dwindling supply of cattle. And then most recently, Tyson has announced it's closing its plant in Nebraska and reducing the processing capacity in its plant at Amarillo, Texas. And that's in total kind of jolted and jarred the beef market a bit. And it has caused some downtrending in Canadian cattle prices, though, as Ryan mentioned, they are still record high. Many producers had marketed their calves this fall prior to the drop that we've seen in feeder cattle prices. So it's not that the industry is decimated, but certainly a few warning signs on the horizon, mainly due to political instances.
On Tuesday, we saw it was Bison Day at Agribition. And Ryan, I'm sure you had a chance to check out a few of the bison. I know you spoke with Robert Johnson as well.
Yeah, and it's always amazing to see the bison in person and just how massive they are. And especially seeing them in the a small space like the John Deere Sale Arena, I'm sure that has to cause a little bit of stress. But for the few days that they were there, I didn't hear of any incidents of anybody, being gored or trampled over or anything like that. So that's good. But when I was talking to Robert Johnson, he's the vice president of the Canadian Bison Association. He felt that the day went really well. There was a lot of people, that, especially kids, that were interested in learning a little bit more about bison from a cultural sense to how it's used, how to cook it, among other things. So a lot of engagement there. They also had a sale. There was about 58 head that were entered into the sale at the John Deere Sale Arena, which is about 12 more than the previous year. So that's another positive sign. I also asked him about prices as well. The last time I talked to him, which was last year, he said that prices for bison meat were about $6 a pound. That's gone up $1 to $7 a pound. So another positive indicator that things are on the up. And he also said that it just goes to show that there's a lot of optimism within the bison industry. He said that the bison haven't been impacted by any tariffs. They are CUSMA compliant. So there's been a lot of flow of bison going across the border. So again, a lot of optimism in the industry moving forward here. And he's looking to see if they can add a little more value in programming to agribition here. I even asked him, what do you think about using Mosaic Stadium for the bison, since they kind of prefer more of a large open space rather than an enclosed structure, which could stress them out after a while. He said, you know what, that actually might not be a bad idea, but we'll have to talk about it a little bit more. So we'll see in the years to come if that comes to fruition or not.
Kevin, I know a lot of producers have been raising bison for the last, at least the last 20, 25 years in Saskatchewan. Is it just a niche market, or do you see a future in it?
Well, it's one of the few alternative livestock species that really has taken off and made an economic difference. The other one probably would be meat goats that has a place in the industry. But if you look at everything from ostriches to wild boar to a bunch of the elk industry, which was decimated by chronic wasting disease, bison is a real success story. But I think it's a real uphill battle to get more bison producers. It takes a lot of expertise. There's a fair bit of upfront cost. There's a lot of labor involved. Some of the same problems the beef industry faces. I think the best result for the bison industry in the years going forward is increased indigenous agriculture interest. They have the land base. They have the spiritual connection to bison. In many instances, if that would, in many people's minds, make a lot of sense. And I know the bison industry has been reaching out to indigenous bands, seeing if they could help them get into the bison business or increase their bison herds or increase their management. And that's probably where the best opportunity exists for a larger bison herd in Saskatchewan as well as across Western Canada.
Another highlight of the week, of course, at Agribition has been the rodeo every night since Wednesday. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, rodeos at Agribition. And I guess it was the first night, Ryan, they crowned Miss Rodeo Agribition.
That's right. That's Shyla Sitter from Edam, Saskatchewan. So that's now two individuals from Edam, Saskatchewan that have taken home the crown in the last 3 years that Miss Rodeo Agribition has been here at the event. This year's winner being Abby Hardy. She's also from Edam, so a little bit of a dynasty in the making here. But Shyla, when she was talking about her reaction to winning, she wasn't expecting it at all, even though they were kind of, training them, I guess, to, how to react or how to carry yourself regardless of the outcome. But when you win, there's really nothing preparing you for the natural reaction that you're going to get. So in Shyla's case, her legs were shaking. She kind of fell down a little bit. She was hugging Abby afterwards. She was crying. So it was a really great moment for her. And she's really looking forward to carrying the crown once her reign begins on January 1st, 2026. She's a very social person, so she's looking forward to meeting a bunch of new people while representing the brand. And we'll see where her journey takes her. There's a lot of social media that goes into being Miss Rodeo Agribition. You can follow Miss Rodeo Agribition on Instagram if that's your thing. But yeah, it's definitely a cool thing.
Another announcement that came out Friday morning from Canadian Western Agribition was that Prairie Clean Enterprises, which has its head office in Regina and is just in the process of firing up its production plant in Weyburn, has announced a 5-year deal with Agribition to provide flax bedding. And what's your reaction to that news, Kevin?
I think that's excellent. Let's use local products, especially when those products are proven to be very good, and it seems to be a win-win for both, and a great place to announce that kind of a partnership. And all the best to the facility in Weyburn, and hopefully they can have a great deal of success.
Yeah, one of the reporters asked the president and CEO, Mark Cooper, about that, the fact that what's going to make this flax processing plant successful compared to all the failures in the past. I know, Kevin, you too have wondered if it can be successful or not.
Yeah, I guess I've seen too many over the years that had great intentions, looked great in the analysis and maybe in the shares they sold, but dating way back to the 90s in a company called Durafiber and I believe it was Kamsack or Kenora, that was subsequently taken over by Cargill, I believe, and there's been many others where it's just not been an easy thing to make this a viable enterprise. But let's hope that this one, that the timing is right, that the economics is right this time.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the SaskAgToday.com Roundtable. On behalf of the Chief Agricultural Editor for SaskAgToday.com, Kevin Hursh, and the Agri-News Director for 620 CKRM Regina, Ryan Young, I'm GX94 Yorkton Agriculture Director Doug Falconer saying so long until next time.